Hello everyone and welcome to this late night edition of the Cheat Meal presented by Deep Fried Draft. My name is Brian Bosarge. We had an unpredictable and wild first round that is now in the books. We're going to break it down pick by pick. Going to go through each pick, give you a little thought of what I think about it, give you where I had that player ranked and what its pertaining value was on my board. With the number one pick, no surprise, Cleveland selected Myles Garrett. He was the best player in the draft, upgrades their pass rush immediately, makes their defense better. He was the deep fried draft number one player, a value grade of 0 for Cleveland. Number two, Chicago traded a third round pick in this year's draft, a fourth round pick in this year's draft, and a 2018 third round pick to move up one spot to go up from 3 to 2 with San Francisco to select quarterback Mitchell Trubisky from North Carolina. Trubisky was my number one rated quarterback, 23rd overall, for a value score of minus 21 for the Bears. They did sign Mike Glennon in the offseason to a big contract, but that was not going to preclude or stop them from drafting a quarterback high, and obviously it did not. So it looks like Glennon will be a 1 year perhaps bridge, or maybe even a half year bridge to Trubisky for the Chicago Bears. So San Francisco gets those picks, moves back one spot, gets the guy they probably would have drafted anyway, Stanford edge rusher Solomon Thomas. That position, defensive end, is a little loaded for San Francisco. As you know, they've drafted two players in that position the last 2 years. Maybe not with the quite edge skill that Thomas has. And I find it funny that the trade involved him and Trubisky, and Thomas's best game was pretty much brutalizing Mitch Trubisky for an entire game in the Sun Bowl. He was the third best player on my board for a value grade of 0 for the 49ers. Jacksonville, who had long been rumored to select Leonard Fournette, although I did not have that in my final mock draft, but they go that route anyway, immediately upgrade their rushing game, and in theory will take some pressure off of quarterback Blake Bortles. Fournette was my number 11 player for a minus 7 value grade for the Jaguars. A little surprise here at Tennessee at pick 5. I think this might have been a trade-up spot for the Browns if Trubisky would have still been on the board. But instead, the Titans stay put and draft my number 1 rated wide receiver, although there was talks that he would fall much further than what he was drafted. But Corey Davis from Western Michigan, top rated receiver on my board, number 9 overall on my board, minus 4 value for the Titans. But they upgrade their offense with Corey Davis and gives Mariota a true number 1 receiver. Pick 6 for the Jets, they get the top safety on the board and my number 2 overall player for a value score of 4, Jamal Adams from LSU. Adams is a sideline to sideline, ball hawking, hit you in the mouth, safety, great team leader. He'll be a tremendous asset for the Jets defense. Their offense still sucks, but hey, defense. The Los Angeles Chargers pick 7, give Phillip Rivers something to smile about, and they go up and get him weapon in Mike Williams, wide receiver from Clemson. He was my number 2 wide receiver, 12th overall on my board, and for a minus 5 value, but a position of need for the Chargers. Pick 8, Carolina had long been thought to be the landing spot for Leonard Fournette. They go with the other one of the top running backs in this draft, in Stanford's Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey is everything different from Leonard Fournette. McCaffrey can be a slot receiver if need be. He's tremendous, a great pass blocker, can run between the tackles, can run to the edge, also gives you some special teams, tremendous kick and punt returner. So after just losing Ted Ginn, they need a punt returner. I imagine McCaffrey will be that guy. He was 13 on my board for a minus 5 value for Carolina. Cincinnati Bengals, they go with another wide receiver, and they get the fastest one in the draft. It had been reported a few weeks ago that their team doctors had cleared John Ross medically, and he does have a laundry list of medical issues. But homeboy is fast. 4.22 record setter at the combine. going to be a bit hard now to move a safety over the top on A.J. Green when you got to contend with John Ross on the other side and his speed, Tyler Boyd in the slot, and Tyler Eifert stretching the middle of the defense. This will help Andy Dalton tremendously, and I got a feeling they're probably going to maybe upgrade running back at 41 tomorrow as well. Ross was 20th on my board because of the injuries, so a value of -11 for the Bengals, but still a position of need. Kansas City, big mover in this draft. They come all the way up from 27. Buffalo's pick here, pick 10. They give up pick 27 in the first round, third round pick, 91 overall, and a 2018 first round pick to get their quarterback of the future, Patrick Mahomes. This is a great landing spot for Mahomes. You have Alex Smith in place. Mahomes is not going to be ready year one. Andy Reid is a great teacher of quarterbacks. So this will be a great one-year transition for Patrick Mahomes to learn the West Coast system of Andy Reid and bridge from Alex Smith to Mahomes. Mahomes, of all the quarterbacks in this draft, easily had the highest ceiling, but he also had one of the lowest floors. But Kansas City is obviously okay with that, and they felt they had to get ahead of Cleveland at 12, which they did. So they give up the big pick. Mahomes was 27 on my board for a -17 value for Kansas City. New Orleans stayed pat. Guess what? Best corner in the draft fell to them at their biggest position of need, Marshawn Lattimore of Ohio State. 7th best player on my board, a +4 value. Like I said, the Saints needed corners bad, and they could not have imagined when the night started that the best one was going to fall in their lap. At pick 12, Cleveland, having seen Trubisky and Mahomes go by the wayside, they want nothing to do with Deshaun Watson, so they make the trade with Houston. Houston comes up from 25, gives Cleveland their first-round pick in 18. They already had their second-round pick in 18 in the Osweiler trade earlier in the year, so Houston, in a pick acquired from Cleveland through Philadelphia, selected Deshaun Watson, the quarterback from Clemson. Houston needed a quarterback, some kind of terrible. They were going into the season with Tom freaking Savage as their starting quarterback, and that's not going to happen. Watson, who some think was the one quarterback that was ready to step in immediately, he has a great team to work. He has great offensive players to work with. And a good offensive line and a great defense. So Watson goes in a great position for him to win immediately. Watson was my third-ranked quarterback, 28th overall player, so -16 on the value for Houston, but at their biggest position of need, without a doubt. Arizona sits back at 13. The quarterback had been mentioned to them, but they're all gone now. So they sit there and get a tremendous athlete in Hassan Reddick from Temple. Linebacker, edge player, wherever you want to play him, he can play it. Reddick went to Temple as a walk-on corner, converted to edge rusher, went to a Senior Bowl as a middle linebacker, dominated there, dominated Temple. I mean, he's just a hustle player, guess a guy you love to have on your team, and he's going to a great place in Arizona where his talents will be utilized to its fullest. Reddick was my 16th overall player, -3 on the value for the Cardinals, but a great pickup. The Philadelphia Eagles in a pick acquired from Minnesota and Sam Bradford trade get an edge rusher and Derek Barnett from Tennessee. It was a minor position of need. I thought corner was a bigger position of need, but they feel like the value is there, and judging by some of the players that slipped, they should be able to get a very good corner in the second round. If they have a second-round pick, I'll have to look at that. They may have traded that at some point. But they get Barnett, a guy I wasn't as high on as some people, but he was my 25th overall player, value of -11 for the Eagles, but he was very productive in the SEC. Another team that had no idea that this player would fall to them, and that's Indianapolis at 15, selects Ohio State safety Malik Hooker. Hooker is an Earl Thomas-type center fielder at safety, tremendous production in 2 years at Ohio State. And he had no testing data due to an injury this offseason, so that may have caused him to drop a little. But I had him as my 5th best player overall, so a plus 10 value for the Colts with Malik Hooker. Baltimore, Ozzie Newsome, Alabama tight end, state has constantly drafting players from Alabama. Need at corner, so they get the corner from Alabama and Marlon Humphrey. Track star, elite tackler at the position. I question his ball skills, but he's a solid corner. Wasn't one of my highest rated corners, even I think 5th or 6th as on my corner board, but goes to a good team that can utilize his strengths. He was my 33rd overall player, value of minus 17 for the Ravens. One of the few picks I actually mocked right in my mock draft was the Redskins at 17, and Jonathan Allen, due to his shoulder injuries, kind of went in a free fall. But he lands here at 17. He's tremendous value for the Redskins. 5 technique player. Fourth overall on my board, value of plus 13 for the Redskins. I was a little surprised with the 18th pick here. I thought Tennessee may go with O.J. Howard. They do have needs on defense. But maybe a small reach here for Adoree Jackson, the corner from Southern Cal. He hasn't actually really fully concentrated at corner, so this may be something that, he becomes down the road one of the better corners in this draft, but he's just never really fully concentrated on that. He's also one of the best return men in the draft, so they add that benefit. I had Jackson the 39th player for a minus 21 value for the Titans, but this may be one of those picks where you look at it in 2 or 3 years and you're like, they actually got a steal here. So it could go either way, but Jackson's non-completeness at corner was what had him lower for me. O.J. Howard falls in the lap of Tampa Bay, gives Jameis Winston another weapon on offense. It's at pick 19 here, the tight end from Alabama. He was my 6th best player, number 1 tight end, and plus 13 value for Tampa Bay here. They already have big receiver Mike Evans. You signed a free agent speedster, Deshaun Jackson. Now you put O.J. Howard up the seam, and with the possibility of maybe adding a running back in the 2nd round, or an offensive lineman or something to continue to upgrade the offense. Another one I actually mocked right, and I've had this one mocked probably for the last month and a half to the Broncos at pick 20 is Garrett Bowles, the offensive tackle from Utah. It was the biggest position of need for the Broncos. Only problem with Bowles is his age. He'll enter the league at 25. Some don't think that's an issue for an offensive tackle, and maybe it's not. Andrew Whitworth's been one of the best tackles in the league for years, and he was 25 when he entered the league. But he also went in the 2nd round. So there's that. So, but Bowles came in at 36 on my board and a minus 16 value for the Broncos. The Detroit Lions I thought would go perhaps with Reuben Foster here at 21, as he was my top rated linebacker, but they go with my number 2 linebacker, Jared Davis from Florida. Big position of need for the Lions, an inside backer. And Davis can definitely fit the bill and be a day 1 starter for Detroit. He was my 29th overall player for a minus 8 value for the Lions. My biggest reach in the 1st round, I knew it was going to happen. I knew Charles Harris from Missouri, the edge rusher from Missouri, was going to go in the 1st round. I don't see the appeal that a lot of other people do with Charles Harris. He's not as athletic as some of these other guys that I like a lot. He was semi-productive at Missouri, but I don't get the love for him that much. So I'm going to call this a big reach for Miami. They did it a few years ago with Juwan James in the 1st round offensive tackle as well. It was one of the bigger reaches that year for me. But 89th on my board is Charles Harris for a minus 67 value for Miami. So that's going to put them in the hole as far as my overall value board goes for the draft. The New York Giants with a surprise pick here for me, selecting tight end Evan Ingram from Ole Miss. We'll say tight end is tight end in name only. Ingram's basically a big slot wide receiver who is a matchup nightmare for teams. But you couple him with Sterling Shepard in the slot, and now they signed Brandon Marshall to pair with Odell Beckham Jr. Eli Manning can't complain about his weapons that he has on offense. Now, he can complain about his offensive line because it's still trash. But maybe they can address that in the second round with one of these guys that seems to be falling. Ingram, because of his lack of size, and I may have had, I'm going to say I probably have him rated low at 51. I just like some other players more than him. So minus 28 value, but this is another one of those picks where he's going to be productive. I'm going to look foolish, but like I said, I just like the other guys more than that. If you've been following the news lately, the 24th pick to Oakland is semi-surprising with Gary and Conley, the corner from Ohio State. He was my 35th ranked player, so a minus 11 value, but that's not the story here. The story is a month or so ago, he was accused of rape in Cleveland. He's never been charged with a crime or anything like that, but he was accused of rape, I should say, not charged, accused of rape. Took a polygraph test today and passed. I know that's a very inexact science, but you have to feel teams did their due diligence. You have to think the Raiders really did their due diligence because if 2 or 3 weeks from now he's charged with rape, they're going to look like jackasses for taking him in the first round. And they're going to have to face the heat for that. Cleveland, in the pick that they traded back in the draft with Houston, selected Jabril Peppers, a safety from Michigan. I had no idea really what role or position Jabril Peppers is going to play at the next level. I know he's a hell of an athlete, but that's all I really know. I just don't know what he does at the NFL level, where he plays. I don't know that, I know Pete Smith, my go-to guy for Browns information, he doesn't know where Jabril Peppers is going to play for the Browns. So he was a bit confused by the pick as well. Because of his lack of where's he going to play, I had Peppers as the 50th best player in this draft for a minus 25 value. He's another one. Maybe his athleticism just takes over and he's a hell of a player and I look like an ass in a few years, but it is what it is. Pick 26, Atlanta. Traded up with Seattle from 31. They give up the 31st pick, a 3rd round pick, 95th overall, and a 7th round pick to go up 5 spots to select edge rusher from UCLA, Takk McKinley. At this time, I'd like to apologize to Mr. McKinley, who I said would be the last guy in the green room. Well, I was wrong. I was wrong about a lot of stuff tonight, so why should that be any different? McKinley kind of went on a profanity rage bender on the microphone there at the draft, but we'll just say he was excited. Whatever. But he can get to the passer, but he's got some injury concerns, which is why I was lower on him than a lot of others. He was my 52nd ranked player for a minus 26 value for Atlanta, but him opposite of Vic Beasley could be scary for opposing teams. Buffalo, in the pick they acquired from Kansas City in the trade down, selected Tre'Davious White, corner from LSU, a guy I really like a lot. He has return game value. He is very good in press man coverage. Great speed. Will replace Stephon Gilmore there in Buffalo. 22nd overall player for a +5 value for Tre'Davious White to Buffalo. Pick 28 was Dallas. We knew they needed an edge rusher, and they get Taco Charlton from Michigan. Taco's a big edge. Rusher, 6'5", 277. 34th on my board for a -6 value for Dallas. Cleveland traded back into the first round for their third first-round pick of the night. They move up with Green Bay. They give up pick 33, which is the first pick in the second round, and pick 108 in the fourth round. They move up to get David Njoku, the freak athlete tight end from Miami. He could be a big slot receiver for them. His blocking needs to improve, but he was a triple jump champion in the state of Florida in high school. I think it was Florida, state of Florida. So I really like Njoku a lot as far as what he offers on offense. I've had him as my 15th overall player for a +14 value for the Browns. Pittsburgh stays pat at 30, gets a tremendous pass rusher in TJ Watt from Wisconsin, 21st on my board, and +9 value for the Steelers to get the younger brother of JJ Watt. San Francisco, John Lynch, you got to give him credit. A lot of people were giving this guy crap, you know, about why he got the general manager job at San Francisco, but he moves back one pick and gets a buttload of picks from the Bears and end up getting the guy he probably wanted anyway. So now he moves up, maybe he moves up 3 spots from 34 in the second round to 31 here, gives up a 4th round pick. It may even be the 4th round pick he got from the Bears. And they get a guy that some had mocked to them, you know, a couple of months ago at the number 2 overall pick, Reuben Foster, the linebacker from Alabama. Now, Foster has shoulder issues. That's what caused him to drop to 31. But he's a heat-seeking missile. Tremendous football IQ. But, like I said, he does have the injury concerns. But if he can get through the injuries and stay healthy, he's going to be an all-pro level player, possibly for the 49ers down the road. Because of the injury concerns and the diluted tests, I forgot about that. He also had a failed drug test at the combine for a diluted sample, but both guys that had that at the combine went in the first round, so I guess that really didn't matter. But Foster, because of the injuries and such, I dropped to, had him rated as 18 overall on my board with a +13 value for the 49ers. And wrapping up the first round, the Saints stayed pat with the pick they acquired from New England for Brandon Cooks and select a player I will assume will probably be their day one right tackle, Ryan Ramczyk from Wisconsin. Ramczyk was my 3rd rated offensive tackle. I had him 38th on my board for the -6 value. Ramczyk is coming off an injury, and he had no testing in the offseason. So, crazy first round. A lot of trades, a lot of interesting picks. There is some hellacious value there in the second round. So if you're picking in the top 10 of the second round tomorrow, you've got to feel pretty good about where you're at there. But that's going to do it for tonight. Follow me on Twitter at Deep Fried Draft. And we're going to have a second round mock draft. Never done one of those. I'm going to do one of those, have one of those up in the morning. But that's going to do it for this recap of the first round. I am getting sleepy, so I'm going to go to bed. Good night, everybody.